Welcome to the running journey. Welcome to the running journey.
Welcome to the running journey.
Welcome
to the running journey. Running journey, yeah. Welcome to The Running Journey, a transformative podcast telling the story of two brothers faced with a very tough time in their lives that decided to do something about it, get healthy, get fit, and start jogging. The Running Journey will take you through half marathons, Ironmans, ultramarathons, and their attempt at qualifying for the Boston Marathon.
Don't forget 5Ks. Sorry.
We're certainly not going to forget 5Ks, Charlie. This is The Running Journey. Listen to us while you run.
That's a great idea.
Okay, I think we have our intro. Hey guys, welcome. Rob and Charlie here. Today we're doing a course review of the Manitoba Marathon. We are proud Manitobans, both of us. We've both run this race multiple times, and we do know it pretty well. I've ran it. I think I've done it 3 times. Charlie, you've done it how many times? 3 times?
Three times too.
Yeah, so we've both done it 3 times. The Manitoba Marathon usually takes place Father's Day weekend, Winnipeg, Manitoba. 1 year, obviously it was a COVID year, takes place later. Let's talk generally about this course overall. What are your thoughts overall on the race before we get into the details about parking and stuff like that? You've done it a few times. Do you like doing this race?
Yeah, it's on Father's Day. It's in my hometown. It's in June. It's a very, very flat course. So
yeah, incredibly flat.
There's not too many bad turns. It's well, like you're not going to make a wrong turn.
Lots of volunteers up
everyone's
there.
controlling the intersections, everything like that. The only thing that can happen in June is it can be humid. It can be warm. Like it's not crazy warm, but it can feel really warm. But as long as you're aware of that and you stay hydrated, it should be fine.
Yeah. What's the start time?
I believe it's 8 a.m. or 7. I'm not sure.
7. I think some years it's 7, some years it's 8, but it's generally, it's not a 6 a.m. start. So it can drag into 11 noonish. So you can get some potential heat at that point. How many people roughly? They get about 10,000, I think, runners usually, something like that. But they only get they get less than 1,000 for the full.
Years have been over 1,000.
Yeah.
It's 1,000's about the number, but sometimes a bit more, sometimes less. Yeah.
About 1,000 for the full. And the start and finish is always at the University of Manitoba at Investors Group Field. So parking here. So first of all, registration for this does close prior to the event. So you do need to make sure you register. Now they don't sell out. I don't know that it's ever sold out. I think they just get whoever they can. There's options for the full, the half, the 10K. There's a super run. There's a relay. I believe there's a 5K. And am I missing anything there? No, I think they got ample different runs.
Yeah.
You start at the University of Manitoba. So this is at the south end of the city of Winnipeg. Now they don't have shuttles per se that take you there. So it is kind of a relatively open parking lot. There is quite a bit of parking there, but it can take a while to get in the morning of. So you almost want to, I don't know how you've done it in the past. You've driven, I know some years you've gotten dropped off. It can be a little stressful, right? If you're kind of arriving right in the wheelhouse of all the traffic.
Yeah. But the good part is it's chip time. So if you're late, it's no big deal. I have done that. But my little trick is I drive onto Pembina Highway. You get to the Tim Hortons. You park at the Tim Hortons across from the university. And then it's a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk from there.
And there's your warm-up. Boom.
If you want to use that as your warm-up, you can, yeah.
See the tips that you're getting on this show, the real tips. Park at the Tim Hortons. You heard it here first.
Yep.
There's other businesses on Pembina that you could park at. There's like a McDonald's. I think there's gas stations and stuff. So yeah, you park and then you would walk. What is that, Chancellor?
Yeah, Chancellor. Yeah,
Chancellor Matheson Drive. And I know that intersection is controlled. And I know the last time I ran it, I left kind of early, but it took me probably a good 20 minutes to make that light, the left turn at Chancellor Matheson from Pembina. And it was just confusing. So I ended up just getting to the starting line when the race was starting, but like you said, it's chip time. They do have ample porta potties there at the start. The last few years, they've been doing kind of staggered starts, like aggressively staggered because of COVID. But I know that it's largely a mass start, right? You just line up with your time. So if you're thinking you're doing 4 hours, you go in the back. If you're doing 3.5, you move it to the front. It's a standard staggered start. Volunteers, and aid stations. What do you remember about the aid stations?
Plenty of aid stations. Every aid station you can get either water or Gatorade, and they're really on the ball with having those options. I've seen other marathons where you get there and maybe there's nothing ready. Here,
Yeah.
there's always a Gatorade or a water ready from what I've seen, whichever one you want. There's a few stations that will have energy gels, I believe, at the end.
Yeah. They also do the Vaseline sticks.
Yeah,
And
Vaseline sticks. Yeah.
they got stuff that I think the people here take this very seriously. Like we're proud. Manitobans are proud of this race.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a big community of volunteers that rallies around the race, and the actual fans on the streets. Like I think it's the most fans I've ever seen on the street for a marathon in all the ones I've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a Boston or a New York, but it'll for sure. There's tons of fans. Yeah, so
For a small race, it's pretty.
Yeah, you get to mile 18, 19, 20. From there on in, there's fans all the way.
Okay, so let's go through the course real quick. So this used to be kind of a counterclockwise course back in the day, where you would kind of start and you'd go down Wellington Crescent, Portage, and then back up St. Mary's Road and Linville Crescent and out through St. Vital and back. Now it's counterclockwise. So you're starting, your first move is going to be down University Crescent. You're crossing Bishop Grandin, and then you're basically going down Bishop Grandin towards St. Vital. You go to River Road, and you kind of go to the old St. Vital Victoria Crescent, the nice houses, really nice part of town, up to Dunkirk. I believe there's an aid station there. That's about 4 or 5 miles. You hit Kingston Row, really nice houses on Kingston Row. You're running almost that entire piece on the river, or almost all of it is on the river, close to the river. And then you hit St. Mary's Road, which is kind of a major Winnipeg street for a portion. I think it's like a mile or something like that, before getting into what would be my dad's favorite part of the race, Lyndale Drive. After Lyndale Drive, Charlie, do you recall much of that? You go up, I think it's Lyndale, then you go downtown, right? So you'd go over the bridge.
Yeah, then you cross the bridge, across the two bridges, and you go at some point you start going downtown on Portage. And the thing that they did by switching the course around is that when you're running that section used to be really, really you'd really get hit hard by the sun. But since you're kind of going west, it's not as bad now because you're not going right into the sun. So
right, that used to be
that's kind of a warm section of the course, but the just all the Portage. Well, I guess it's not on Portage, but it's slightly off Portage. But at kilometer 20, so half marathon, you start going on Portage, and that used to be really really hot. But now that you're kind of going west, it's not as hot.
Yeah, you're basically you start north, and then you go straight west for like miles 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You kind of get to the Deer Lodge or the Assiniboine Park, and then you're going south, and then you're basically making your way back to the university.
Yeah, and then there's you cross that little bridge, that little pedestrian bridge at Assiniboine Park, which is very nice. And then the run on Wellington Crescent
that's a beauty.
It's very nice as well. Nice and
that's
smooth.
A staple. I feel like that's a staple in Manitoba races.
A lot of Winnipeg races have that part of the they integrate that part into their course.
Yeah, because Wellington Crescent, I think it's closed to vehicle traffic on the weekends, I believe, or at least on Saturdays or Sundays. So you get the whole Wellington Crescent, and there's a lot of people out there, and it's a nice little, it's a good vibe. Where do you go after you Wellington Crescent? You kind of roll into getting back towards Pembina.
Yeah, getting back towards Pembina, you go on Guelph Street, then
Yeah.
Harrow Street, and then the biggest hill on the course, which is probably about a 30 feet elevation gain, is going over the overpass on
It's the
Jubilee.
overpass. Yeah, it's this is
So
it's a
that's the
hill for
toughest.
Manitoba.
That's the toughest part of the course, right there.
Yeah, I think there's like almost no elevation for the entire course. Like it's almost as flat as it could possibly get for a marathon. I'd be
It
curious to see relative to other marathons. Like it's flat,
is very, very flat. Yep.
and
Uh,
you rejoin for the half marathon. You do a nice little stretch there. You go back to the river. You go towards South Drive, North Drive. There's St. John's Ravens Court. There's some golf courses in there. It's a really nice area. And then you just make your way back to Pembina. When you see Pembina there, you're at the you see the finish line in your mind, right? Because you're hitting mile 24, then mile 25, and then you basically run into the stadium, or not into the stadium last year, but basically the finish line's right out front of the stadium. Some years they make you finish in the stadium, which is pretty neat. It's a 30,000 seat
I think
stadium.
that's how they do it now. You actually finish in the stadium now.
Yeah, well, I did it last year and they made us finish out front, but who
Oh,
knows?
okay.
It might have been COVID. And then basically afterwards, what's it like after? Do you recall? I remember like a ton of volunteers offering all sorts of stuff,
Yeah,
from juices and bananas and gels and muffins and beers, and
yeah,
there was pretty much everything you want. There are a few neat things about this race. One of them is, I believe it's mile 18, I want to say, on might be mile 16, no, mile 17, 18. There's always a guy, a group of guys offering beer to the runners. And do you take a half beer? Do you take a sip of beer? Probably not, because it's not great for you. But I see a lot of runners take a beer, like they're crushing the beer. There's also sprinklers. Like there's a lot of guys and gals on Lindale Drive and later
yeah.
on.
There's people there helping, like not just volunteers. There's people just with coolers and water. I have a story from the 2015 marathon. This was my first ever marathon, and I didn't think I needed to drink water for some reason. So mile hit 18. I hit the wall really hard. I was dehydrated, and I actually stopped, and I wasn't even walking. I was just standing with my arms on my hands, on my knees, and this person just came up to me and gave me like, without me asking or anything, just came up and gave me a bottle of water, and I drank that bottle of water, and then another runner came in and tapped me on the shoulder, and then I kept going, and
Just keep moving, buddy.
yeah,
I
and
had
so
one.
so
Go ahead.
that was really great.
I had one where I saw a lady with Gatorades, and like they were ahead of me, and there was a couple running ahead of me, and I was like, "Oh, she's got Gatorades!" I was dying for Gatorade, and when I got to her, she had 2 Gatorades, and she gave it to those 2. It was their friend, right? And I just said, "Oh, you're out of Gatorade," and she's like, "Oh, well, I'm just their friend." Or I was like, "That's okay. I was hoping to get a Gatorade." I said that out loud, and she goes, "I have half my drinking Gatorade here if you want mine." She gave me her Gatorade. It was half, and I opened it and I crushed the whole thing. I drank her Gatorade, and she was like not a volunteer. She was just like a. So people are pretty cool. People are
Yeah,
pretty nice
it's
out
friendly
there.
Manitoba for a reason.
Yeah. I really like the Manitoba Marathon. I think it's a great race. It's Father's Day, so if ever you've wanted to either motivate yourself for whatever reason, for your father or for your kids, it's a good reason. The 5 legs of the marathon relay are anywhere from basically 8 to 11 kilometers, kind of 4 to 6 miles, 6.5 miles. And so you can pick, stronger runners could do the longer legs, etc. And then the half is basically kind of a mini loop inside. Afterwards, there is a little bit of traffic to exit. So I would suggest, if you're exiting, to exit south. You go down Dalhousie and what are those streets? You used to live in that area there, Charlie. You just kind of exit.
Fort Richmond. So yeah, depending on where you're going, then you can hit the perimeter.
Yeah, you just avoid that kind of, because you can't take University Crescent out. You can't take that street out, and Chancellor
I mean,
Matson's gonna.
I've taken Pembina back home, and it's if you're not in a hurry, it's no big deal. But takes a bit of a time if you take
Yeah.
that way.
And you're going to have a hard time getting a cab, I think, too. So either get someone to pick you up and walk to Pembina, or park there and just be willing to drive out through the south. All in all, I like this course a lot. If I were to rate it, I'd give it like an 8 or a 9 stars out of 10. I do think there's a lot of stuff for everyone, a lot of people, a lot of friendly attitude, a lot of signs, a lot of cowbells ringing. So
do we want to talk about any type of strategy for this course, or is it?
Sure. Yeah.
So to me, would be kind of the standard marathon strategy where, I mean, easier said than done. It gets harder as the event goes on because you start in the morning, and a normal June day in Manitoba, it gets warmer, much warmer. So I think what you're trying to do is run this. So it's very simple strategy. Run this even split. So whatever your goal time is, just figure out the average pace and try to hit that amount. And it should feel very easy at the beginning, and then it should feel very hard at the end. That to me would be your strategy. If it feels a little bit hard at the beginning, you're probably going a little too fast. And then at the end, you should just try to maintain. That'd be my strategy. I have not executed that at this marathon yet, because the first time I ran it, I really didn't know how to run a marathon, and then the next two times I wasn't in really great shape. But I would say that'd be, if you can manage an even split on this course, that would be great.
I did my first ever marathon here. I did a 1:43 first half and a 2:15 second half or something like that. It was not, I didn't manage my pace too good as years ago.
And that's, I mean, if you're not as experienced, like that was my first one too. Um, that's easy to do. But I think even on this course, it is, even though it's flat, the second half is much harder just because it gets warmer.
Yeah. Looking at the average temperature on Father's Day weekend, the average high in Winnipeg is around 23, 24 degrees Celsius at that time.
Yeah.
And the low is around 13, 14. So you're going to get to probably if 20, 22, 22 degrees, something like that, if it's a regular day. But if you get a hot day, like we saw last year in Manitoba, they actually, like we had a bit of a heat wave. And you get days where you reach 30, 32 degrees on the thermometer before the race is done.
Yeah, I guess another way to approach it, if you were to run this, would be to kind of figure out how hot is it going to get, and really the hotter it gets, probably the more you want to kind of conserve for the end.
I'd
But
say just load up on liquids if you're getting a hot day, because you don't
yeah,
realize how much you're sweating.
yeah,
And get some Gatorade in there. Get some Gatorade and get some water. And because we've all got that tendency to think that once we're running, we're fine. We never need water. I'm fine. I could run forever. But you
yeah,
might not feel like you need it, but the body definitely needs it. And this isn't a course. The one thing that sucks about that is if you overload, it's not really a course that you could just pee on the side of the road. You're going to have to find a porta potty because you're running through Winnipeg, right? Like
yeah.
you're running through the city. So you're not going to be able to just pee on the side of the road. So you will have to find a porta potty. So if you're trying to break a 3-hour marathon, you probably can't do many of those.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But if
I
you're
mean,
just, go
yeah.
ahead.
I mean, there are spots on Wellington, but oh yeah, no, they're going the other way now. Yeah, so there, maybe Saint Vital Park, you could run a couple off, but it's not, wouldn't be, it would be frowned upon, I think, if you'd
Yeah.
wanted to.
I don't think they do like in Tucson and they would like kick you off the course or anything. Cause I think they'd be like, hey, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
But we've never done that. Obviously you or
no,
we've never done that. Obviously. I like the strategy, Charlie. I like the idea. And I think you just be willing to you're going to have to either put more effort in when it's hotter to keep that time. And if you're already at max effort and you're at mile 13 and you know you're going to get tired and you know it's going to get hotter, then you do need to pump the brakes, right? Because you can't you can't be at max effort 13 if you know it's going to get hotter and you know you can't do it, right?
yeah. So 2016, I was in decent shape, not the best shape, but I was hoping for a 3:30 as kind of my goal. And I went out at that pace, and then 2 miles into it, I realized that it was an extremely, there had been a big thunderstorm the night before, and it was like 25 in the morning or 22 in the morning. I don't remember, but it was extremely hot and humid right from the start. So at about mile 2, I realized I was not going to be able to do my goal. So I immediately slowed down, and I ended up doing not even close to my goal, 3:58. But I mean, I think I could have done a little bit better had I not gone out so hard. But yeah, so that was probably my mistake, is readjust your strategy depending on the difficulty of the day.
Your RPE, your rate of perceived exertion, right?
Yeah.
You knew that you were hitting the high end of your RPE. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Manitoba Marathon, great marathon, reasonably priced too. What is it, like $70, $80 or something, or maybe it's $100?
Yeah, around there. It's reasonable for sure.
Reasonably priced. So I encourage you to do it, especially if you're Manitoba. And if you're not, come to Winnipeg, visit, and do the marathon. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, give us your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the Manitoba Marathon? Have you run it? If yes, what part did you like? What part did you hate? Did we miss any important pieces on the marathon? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you guys for taking the time. We'll see you in the next video.